Welcome everyone to another episode of Mindful Sports. I wanted to take today, give you guys a little bit of information about myself. I grew up playing sports, started playing soccer at an extremely young age, moved on to several different sports, baseball, swimming, basketball, racquetball, tennis, um, and so I had my fair share of sports experiences as a kid. As I started to get older, I really sunk into soccer as my sport and my forte. That was my love, that was my passion, and I actually used to have a goal of playing soccer professionally. Unfortunately, my freshman year of college, I was in a car accident that left me with pretty bad injuries. Specifically, I had bone and muscle damage to both of my knees. This dealt a very deep blow physically and mentally as well. I went through a very dark period of time after this, um, and it was not pretty. 6 months later, despite being only officially medically cleared for a desk job at the time, I tried out for a college team. Somehow managed to survive the tryouts and was even offered a scholarship. Unfortunately, I was in so much pain every day after those tryouts that I laid in my hotel bed and did not get up until I had to for the next session. I knew that despite the fact this was a great opportunity, there was no way that I was going to be able to deal with that pain throughout an entire season. So, unfortunately, the pain, the fear of not being able to make it through, and the doubt of my abilities made me unable to see past my injuries. And I turned down that scholarship and have not stepped foot onto a competitive field again. Uh, it's been hard. It's been a long road, and even now, so many years later, almost 13 years later now, I deal with pain trying to exercise. I used to run a sub 5 minute mile, and now if I run an 8 minute mile, I'm out for several hours because I'm in so much pain. Unfortunately, nobody can seem to find anything wrong with my knees. I've been to multiple different docs, had multiple different examinations done, and nobody is able to find anything wrong. This kind of led me to thinking maybe it wasn't necessarily muscle or bone or that old injury. Maybe the nerve damage that I had had before extended into my knees as well, and that I was still dealing with added pain. That didn't seem to fit either. Um, and so, as I have delved more into psychology and specifically sports psychology, it's become kind of evident to me that this is why I still struggle. That it's not necessarily the physical, although there is still going to be physical aspects of weak muscles and not being used to doing what they're doing before. And now, of course, because I have struggled to work out, I'm extremely out of shape, and trying to get back into that is going to be hard. Um, but it really is the mental aspect that has kept me from being able to reach my goals and to really get to where I'm trying to get at. It's made me one of many athletes who did not have the knowledge or the support system to make it through those mental hurdles. My coaches that I had the support system that I did have, nobody was prepared to deal with the mental aspects of those injuries. It was all about the physical and what can we see. And not only were the signs and the connections missed, but no one knew how to handle the negative consequences either. The NCAA has actually come out with an article talking about athletes who specifically have suffered knee injuries that can suffer both physically as well as emotionally with a decrease in their quality of life. And I can tell you firsthand that that is so absolutely true. Um, Dealing with the mental aspect, the emotions that go through it, the fear, the anxiety, it can all hurt so badly. Stress is at an all-time high. You're worried about everything. You're wondering what's going to happen next. There was even a mention in this article of an Olympic skier who did battle depression, but thankfully was able to overcome it and make it to the other side. There's been people such as the late Denver Broncos receiver Kenny McKinley, who sadly passed away after his battles with depression from injury. This is something that we don't take seriously enough, and we have so many athletes, numerous athletes, who are getting injured and are not able to handle it, and they have no support system behind them. So, after this quick break, I want to come back and kind of delve even further into this and really kind of dig into some of what has gone in to my process now and look back and see what was going on then. Welcome back, everyone. Like I said before the break, I want to dig in a little bit deeper into all of the things that went on psychologically after that accident when I had my injuries and the bone and muscle damage to both my knees. There's a lot that goes into it. A big part was the initial feeling of my career is over. I'm no longer going to be able to make it to the goal that I wanted to make and be a professional player. This was only enhanced when I did the tryouts for that college team as well. And sure, you might say, but you made the team and you earned a scholarship. And while that's entirely correct, because of how much pain I was in and knowing that I couldn't get through an entire season, and it had already been 6 months, and I was still feeling that way, in my mind, there was no overcoming this at that point. In my mind, it was, I have hit this point, and this is as far as I will ever get. Because even after going through everything else and having all of that time to recover, I still wasn't even able to be back just for tryouts. And yet here I watch other college and professional athletes coming back from injuries within weeks or maybe a couple months. They have to have serious tears and surgery typically in order to be out for an entire season and not come back. Or it happens late in the season and they won't be able to move forward. But for me, it had already been so long. The questions in my mind maybe my body isn't actually cut out for this. Maybe I can't hold up. Maybe there's something wrong and really broken with me that I'm not able to recover from this. And I had had injuries before. I had torn ligaments in my leg. I had been in air casts. I had come back early from injuries and still had lasting effects from those. This wasn't the first time that I had been injured. This wasn't something that was so new, but the length of time that it took really wore me down. And then I come back years afterwards and I start trying to run again. I go from running as fast as I did when I was playing to more than doubling that time for a simple mile, and then still being in so much pain that it would take hours for me to be able to recover. This messes with your heads in ways that is so hard to really explain to other people. This expectation of what you've had before, what you've been before, and now suddenly you can't get to that point. So you've seen yourself with a much higher potential than where you're at now. And time and time and time again, you can't get back to that potential. It wears on you mentally. Now, as I've started to understand more of the psychology that goes into that, more of the sports psychology topic that really was never even crossing anyone's minds at that point in time, it starts to make a lot more sense. And on top of making more sense, this also presents new problems. I've finally started going back and doing jujitsu, something that I have loved for a long time. And it is stressful on the body, especially when you have not done hardly anything in 6 years. It is difficult to come back. But now a new question plays in my mind. Is it that I'm really in pain when I'm hurting afterwards? Or is it my mind going back to all of those times before, going back to the rec, going back to the tryouts, going back to the running, going back to the other exercises and the other times that I had tried to get back into the gym, that I had tried to work out my knees? Is it my mind going back to all of those and projecting that pain? Or is it a legitimate pain? So now I recognize the psychological aspects that have gone in that have held me back. And yet now I'm presented with even more and an even harder question, because I can take it as it's real legitimate pain and I can have that prevent me from moving forward yet again. Or I can take it as, that's psychological pain, and end up actually hurting myself more because I'm overdoing what my body can handle right now. And so now I'm trying to figure out this balance of the psychological and the physical. And this is something that athletes don't really get a whole lot of help and support coming from other people for. I really hope that this tiny insight into what I go through on a regular basis and what I'm seeing on a regular basis, even just from this injury aspect, can help you understand how important this topic is, why it is that I've started to fall in love with this topic, and really trying to learn and grow myself in it more, and help educate others because this is a very important issue that really does not get enough attention still today. And that's all that I have for you guys today. I hope that this has been insightful for you, and I look forward to sharing even more with you as we move forward on future episodes. Have a great day, everyone.